ELYSE TV.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Raven, and today I'm coming to you super chill. My bed is not even made. Please ignore my backdrop. But this is just going to be a super chatty video. This was a request from you guys on my last Target vlog. I asked you guys if you would be interested in hearing a video just all about my driver's anxiety and kind of my whole backstory with being scared to drive and getting my license late and all that whole story. So I guess in this video, I'm just gonna kind of give you a background story on my experience and tell you guys the things that I did and the things that I regret and the things that I guess some sort of advice that I can give you. I know it's always kind of like weird trying to give advice because it's like I'm not an expert. Everyone's situation is different, but I guess I can try to give you guys a little bit of advice, even just from you hearing my experience. So hopefully this helps some people. I was super shocked, I guess is the word, to see on that Target vlog when I was talking about my driver's anxiety. I thought maybe like 3 or 4 people would actually comment and say, yeah, we would be interested in the driver's anxiety video. But there was actually tons of comments on that video saying, I have driver's anxiety too. I'm however old and I don't have my license yet. I have this experience, I have that experience. There was so many comments of people saying that they struggle with the same thing. And I was reading through the comments like, wait, what? This actually happens to other people? Like, I was genuinely shocked because me, in my personal life, I have never met another person who has driver's anxiety like I did or who had like a similar experience. Everyone that I would talk to about it, they would pretty much just make fun of me and they would pretty much not understand where I was coming from whatsoever. So it was super, I don't want to say it made me feel good because it sucks that other people are struggling. I don't want to see other people struggle. I don't want to see other people have the same problem I have. But in a sense, seeing that so many people just on that one video, that's just out of the people who just so happen to watch that video. So who knows out of all the rest of my followers, who knows out of all the rest of the people in the world who actually go through this same thing. I don't know. It just kind of was like eye-opening to me that I'm not crazy, I guess, or at least we can all be crazy together. So that's, I guess, my first point is that apparently this is very common because like I said, if that many people just said it just on that video, apparently it's pretty common. So if you struggle with driving, if you have anxiety behind the wheel, if you have not gotten your license yet, if you feel like you're behind with the whole driving thing, apparently you are definitely not alone. Apparently you are definitely not crazy. You're not an alien. You're not stupid, because this is pretty common. And there's going to be tons of people in the comments of this video who can probably relate to you. And if not that, then I can relate to you. So that's also why I'm doing this video, just to let you guys know that I get you. If nobody else gets you, I get you. I realized that driving might be a problem for me pretty early on at the age of 12, 13, 14. You know, you're starting to see the older kids start driving. You're starting to pay a little bit more attention when your parents are driving you around because you know that time is coming when you're going to need to take your driver's test. And I started really thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be ready for that. I'm not going to want to do that. That seems so freaking scary. That seems like something I would not be good at. That seems like just so scary. I just remember thinking that from a younger age and just hoping that I would be able to avoid it for as long as possible. And I did, basically. I wasn't like all the rest of my friends who were like in high school, freshmen in high school, 14, 15 years old. Everyone's like, oh, I can't wait to turn 16. I can't wait to, or turn 15 to get my permit, or whatever the age limits are or were at the time. Everyone's like, oh, I can't wait because I just want to hurry up and get my permit. I just want to hurry up and get my license. I don't want my parents to be driving me around all the time. Like, everyone was complaining. And I've always been young for my grade. I started kindergarten a little bit early. I guess that's how you would say it. So I've always been a little bit younger than everybody. So everyone around me was, you know, turning 14, 15 and going through that whole process. And I remember just being like, yep, that's cool. You can do that. I'm gonna stay over here. Oh, you're going to driver's ed? I'm not going to that. Like, what? No, I'm good. Like, you just come pick me up when you get your license. Like, I was that friend, and I don't like to admit that, but I was definitely that friend who was like, can you pick me up? Can you drive me? Can you just do it? Da, 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 because I was scared. I didn't even want to try. So I avoided it for a very long time. And what I did was I kind of finessed the system because I did the written part. I went to driver's ed. I did the part where you had to sit in the little classroom setting and do all the written work and watch all the videos. I did that part, you know, whenever I was however old, 14, 15. And, you know, I was like, cool, I can sit at a desk and take the class, but I'm not getting behind the wheel. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm not doing that. And I avoided it at all costs. And I think there had maybe been a couple times, like 1 or 2 times ever in my life that like my dad had tried to take me out driving with him. Not a good experience, did not care for it, and I just really wanted to avoid it at all costs. And my parents, they would try to encourage me, and they would try to push me to take driver's ed, push me to do my driving hours. I had to do the class time, the written class work. I had to, I guess, do a written test to get my permit or something. And then I know there was times when I had to do driving hours with the instructor. And the way that driving hours work is that after you got your, I think it was after you got your permit, then you had to start scheduling driving hours, and you had to do so many hours before you could get your actual driver's license. And the driving hours were done with the driving instructor and with another student. So y'all, the 2 students would take turns. And it would be for like an hour, and then you would just schedule those over the course of a few weeks until you got however many hours you needed, and then you could take that, and then you could go take the real driver's test to get your license. So like I said, I did all the written part, and then I just avoided those driving hours with the instructor at all cost. And also, just for a backstory, I up to this point have never ever been in a car accident. I might have been in a car during like a fender bender one time with somebody else driving, but the only bad experience that I've ever had in a car was one time when I was really little. I remember riding in the back seat and the door flew open. Like, I hadn't closed the door all the way, and when we were on the road, the door like flew open really hard, and kind of like I felt like I was gonna fall out of a moving car. And I just have that vivid memory of like almost falling out of a moving car. But other than that, no major car accidents, nothing scary like that. So in my head, I'm like, why am I so traumatized? Like, why am I so scared of this? I have no real reason to be scared. I've never had a bad experience. And it was just something that scared me from more so of a place where driving is something that you cannot fully control, because you can't control the other people on the road. You can't control what they're gonna do. You can't control any type of freak accidents. You can't control if a piece of wood falls off the back of a construction. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different crazy things and freak accidents that can happen that would not even be your fault. You could be a perfect driver. You could be minding your own business on the road. You could be the best driver ever, but something could hit you and you could die. And they would show you those videos I remember in the classroom setting of driver's ed, they showed us videos of car accidents as educational, you know, for educational purposes. But I remember like they showed one video where literally like the person flew out of the car and like their head got smashed, and it was like their brain exploded on the street. Like, literally, they were showing us these things. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know how it is in your state or your city or whatever, but I was just like, damn, like, I'm already scared. I'm already thinking of all these freak accidents that could happen to me on the road, and you're gonna show me videos of car accidents because they're trying to tell you like what not to do. But still, like, I just had all these thoughts of what could possibly happen on the road. And then on top of that, I didn't even trust myself as a good driver, because I'm kind of like not coordinated, clumsy person. I don't have very good hand-eye coordination, which I know sounds dumb, because when it comes to driving, it's like you don't really need that much hand-eye coordination. Like, you just need to have basic motor skills, no pun intended. But to me, I just felt like, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't trust myself, but I had no reason not to trust myself. It's something like I had never tried it, so how would I know if I was bad at it or not? I just assumed that I would be bad at it. I don't know where all these thoughts came from, But all this stuff put together, I was just like, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. So like I said, I avoided the little driving hours at all costs, to the point where I went through my entire high school career without doing my driving hours. I had gotten up to the point of getting my permit and did not do my driving hours. And what I had told myself was, well, I don't want to go with the instructor because that's scary. Like, I don't know him. He's like this old man. He's really strict or whatever. And there's going to be like another kid in the car that I don't know. So I would rather work my way up and just practice driving with my parents a little bit. And then I promise I'll go do it with the instructor. Well, I avoided going with my parents as well. Like I said, all throughout high school, you know, my dad, my mom would be like, hey, let's go on, you know, a Sunday afternoon. Hey, let's go practice in the parking lot. You know, let's just go try, blah, blah, blah. And they would try to encourage me, but I would not that I would throw a temper tantrum or anything, but there was times when I would cry about it. There was times when I would just be really, really upset about it and just really not want to do it and just be really, really scared, to the point where I had only gone like a couple times with my dad in the parking lot. That's it. And I never kept my promise of, oh, I promise I'll do it with you guys and then I'll go to the instructor. I never did it. I went all throughout high school without doing it. And I graduated high school and I moved away and went to college in another city. And so of course now I'm not doing it. And it wasn't until my sophomore year of college. So I'm like at least 20 years old. Yeah, like maybe 19, 20 years old. I don't remember exactly. But I finally was going home for the summer. And mind you, I had gone this whole time in freshman, sophomore year of college, definitely freshman year of college, of not only did I not have a car, which was like not that bad, like freshman year of college, because a lot of freshmen did not have a car because we lived on campus in the dorms, and like just a lot of people didn't have a car. So that wasn't, I could kind of like hide under the radar, like, oh, you don't have a car? I don't have a car either. Yeah, I got my license though. Yeah, I got my license. Yeah. And just like lie and be like, yeah, I got my license, but I just don't have a car, just like you. And just kind of like hide under the radar under that excuse. But that still sucks because like neither me nor any of my friends had cars. So we were like always stuck on campus. There would be events going on that we couldn't go to because we never had a ride. And then that kind of trickled into sophomore year where, you know, a lot of people did have cars sophomore year because we're living off campus, but I still didn't. And like my two best friends still didn't. So we would be trapped a lot of the time. Like we couldn't even go grocery shopping because there was nobody driving, there was nobody with a car. And even if, you know, I was able to save up money to get a car, because at that time, that's when I was really starting to save up. And, you know, friends and roommates looking at me like, oh, why don't you get a car? And I'm like, I don't have my license. So it just made things really hard and really embarrassing to not even be able to go to the grocery store and have to ask somebody, can you take me to the grocery store? Can you do this? Can you do that? Like, can't even do basic stuff. And I'm like 20 years old. So I felt really embarrassed about that. And I did not like telling people that I didn't know how to drive, that I was scared to drive, that I didn't have my license. I would really only tell people when it got to that point of them like really, really asking me. But I always hated having to explain that because it's just so freaking embarrassing, because people look at you like, huh? Like, why? Like, that's stupid. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, just go get your license. Like, that's not normal. Like, people, like I said, I never met someone who was like, oh, I feel you. Like, everybody was always like, huh? Like, you're dumb. So it's just something that was super embarrassing and super, super inconvenient. So finally, I think I was starting to get a little bit fed up. So that summer when I did go home for the summer from college, I said, okay, I'm going to do my driving hours. And I believe that I did my drive, and like I said, this is kind of all mixed up, but I believe that I kind of just forced myself to at least do my driving hours with the instructor. And what I do remember is that once I actually did get behind the wheel with the instructor, I found out that the instructor was very, very nice, very, very understanding, very, very patient. I mean, that's his job. That's what he does all day, every day. He drives around with teenagers. And at this point, I'm a little bit older. So I had no reason to believe that he was going to be so like scary. He was very patient, and I think most driving instructors will be, because like I said, that's their job. That's what they do every day. They know that you don't know how to drive, so they're not just going to like throw you out to the wolves. That's what they're there to do, is teach you how to drive. So if you just kind of give in and trust them, it usually turns out okay. And I remember for me, it turned out pretty okay. I didn't really have any bad experiences behind the wheel with my instructor. And I learned a lot, and I was still very nervous. I was still like, every time I get behind the wheel, I would be grasping the steering wheel so freaking tight, and I would not even notice, but like I would be tensing up my whole body, like my shoulders, my spine, even my legs, like just my neck, like everything. I would probably just look like a statue. Like I would just be tensing up so bad, but it was totally like subconscious and involuntary. I didn't even know I was doing it until I finally parked the car, and then I realized like, oh, like let my body go, and I'm like literally sore. And it was, I don't know, it was just like an involuntary like mental thing that would just cause me to be so tense. And I remember I would like, my heart would race the whole time, and I would just be so freaking nervous the whole time, to the point where I'm not dumb. Like I know the rules of the road. I know how to drive. I know I took the written part just fine. But when you're that nervous and you're that freaked out, it causes your mind to go blank. It causes you to forget everything you know, and it causes you to do dumb stuff, which is not good in a driving setting, because you'll be trying to, they'll say, oh, turn left, and you'll be like, huh, what? Turn right. Like I had a few moments like that just because I was so freaking nervous. But you kind of do get used to it over time. Now, I didn't get that used to it. I made it through like barely, but I would still be very tense and be very nervous the entire time. But I just felt so fed up and so embarrassed back in college that I was like, I have to do this. But the next step would be to actually go and take the actual driver's test at the DPS, the DMV, whatever you call it, and get your actual driver's license. I still didn't have my license. I still didn't have a car. It was like I kind of made it a step further, but you know, that wasn't enough. And I still didn't feel comfortable driving, honestly. But again, what ended up happening is I went home, and my parents try to be very encouraging and very supportive, but they're not extremely pushy. They're not the type of parents to be like, you're gonna do this or I'm gonna do it. Like they're not those type of people. So they never pushed my limit like that, and that's how I kind of was able to get away with like waiting so long and everything like that. But when I expressed to them, you know, I really want to get my license, this is really embarrassing, this is really inconvenient, I really want to push myself to do this, then they're like, okay, we're gonna help you. So what they suggested and what they set up for me was to have a private driving instructor, which would come to the house in their little car and pick me up, and I would get behind the wheel, and then we would drive around my neighborhood in my area for an hour, and you know, you pay by the hour or whatever. And it was a certain amount of lessons, maybe like 5 or 6 lessons throughout the next couple of weeks. And that was supposed to really boost my confidence and just really get some good practice under my belt and just really teach me everything I need to know to ace the driver's test to get my license. Because I didn't feel like the little thing with the instructor, I didn't feel like that was enough in terms of like getting my permit. That was not enough. I didn't feel confident enough to actually go take the test, and I was having a really hard time just practicing with my parents, because like, my parents are busy, like they both work and they're busy outside of that, and they have other kids, and so just being busy and finding time in the first place was an issue. And then on top of that, they didn't know exactly what I needed. They didn't know exactly what to tell me or how to tell me or how to teach me, because I'm so freaking nervous and I'm freaking out and I'm crying, and they're just kind of like, okay, we don't know how to do this. We need to push this over to a professional. And so that's what they did. They hired a private driving instructor to come to my house. And I was just like, I don't want to freaking, that's so extra. Like, I just remember thinking like, really, is this what my life has come to? I have to hire a private driving instructor. Like, nobody else does this. None of my friends had to do this. Like, this is so freaking embarrassing. Like, I don't want to do this. I shouldn't have to do this. Why am I like this? Why is my life like this? But I ended up just giving in and being like, okay, I need to do it, because otherwise I'm gonna have to go back to college and look dumb again, and not even just look dumb, but feel dumb, and not even that, but it's affecting my daily life. I can't even do everyday things because I can't get myself around, and that's just wrong. So I decided to go ahead with the private instructor. And I remember the first day she came, she was like an older lady. She was very sweet. She actually reminded me of one of my best friend's moms, who was very, very sweet. And so I felt very comfortable with her. And like, she would be like, oh, for the first thing, let's just drive to the gas station and get some snacks. So she was like very cool like that. And she made me feel very comfortable and calm. She had a very soothing voice. And because that was like more her thing. She wasn't like the instructors like, oh, who just deal with teenagers every day. She was more of a private instructor for people who have, you know what I mean? Like, so she really took her time with it and tried to make you feel comfortable. And it worked. Like, I felt very comfortable with her. We practiced all around. We did all different things. We did the highway. We did all that stuff. We did parallel parking. We worked on parallel parking a lot. I was not good at it at first, but I got pretty darn good at it, because she really taught me a lot of tricks and how to really do it, because she was like, that's one of the things you're really going to need for the actual driving test. And so she taught me that, and she made me feel a lot more comfortable behind the wheel, just taking those private, calm lessons with her. And then once I completed those private lessons with her, I actually did feel better, and I was like, okay, I feel like I can actually go and push myself to take the actual driver's test to get my license. And I remember I was extremely nervous still. Like, the nerves never really fully went away. It wasn't like it was just a miracle and I'm like, I'm confident. Like, it wasn't like that, but it was just enough to get me there. And so I remember I went, my mom took me, and I was very nervous, but I was like, okay, I know this. Like, I know I can do this. I just need to do it and get it over with. And I went in there and I took the test, and I passed, and I did really good on the parallel parking, because that was the one thing that I had practiced a lot. I made one mistake whenever I was going throughout the whole test. I only made one mistake, which was something about like a turn lane. There was like a turn lane that I had never experienced before, like where you have like the bike lane or something like a little bit unique, and I didn't know exactly what you were supposed to do, and so I messed up a little bit on that part. So they deducted some points just for that, but everything else I did really good, and I passed the test and I got my license, and I was so freaking happy to just have that be over with, because I was so nervous, and just it had been years building up to this. Just this had been drawn out since I was like, what, like 14 or 15, and I'm just now getting my license when I'm like 20. So I was just so happy and proud of myself to just be done with it, and that I pushed myself to do it. And there was no harm done. Nobody got in a car accident. Nobody ever got hurt. Nobody ever, like, I never had those experiences. It wasn't like, oh, one time when I was practicing I hit somebody else, or oh, one time when I was practicing this horrible thing happened. Like, that never happened. I was just exaggerating, like making it bigger than it was in my head the whole time. And so yeah, I passed my test and I got my license, and I was just like, woo. But it's not just about just getting your license. For me, it kind of was just about that, because I was like, as long as I can say that I have my license, I'm good. Because when people ask me, or when I have to like show my ID, like, at least I don't have to be embarrassed about it. I didn't really so much care about actually getting a car and actually driving in real life. That was kind of like out of my head. But then I quickly realized, like, wait, I actually have to do that part too, and that's kind of like the real scary part. I don't know, I just didn't really know how to wrap my head around that, and I still kind of pushed that out of my mind and still kind of avoided that and was in denial about that. But my parents got me a car, and they're like, okay, you got your license now, you built up to this for so long, we got you a car. They got me a little Ford, what, I don't even know what it's called. I don't know anything about cars, you guys. I know zero about cars. Freaking, I don't know, I'll have to like insert a picture or something. But I was really happy. I was really thankful for my parents for getting me that and everything. But at the same time, I was like, no, don't give me a car. I don't want to have to drive it. Like, don't send me back to college with this car, whatever. But they did. So I went back to college. I had my license. I had my car. Everything was supposed to be all good, right? Wrong. For a while it was good, because my roommates were very like happy and proud of me, and oh, finally, you know, you have a car, blah, blah, blah. You can drive yourself around, blah, blah, blah. You can take us places. And I was like, yeah, about that. And so my roommates, they already knew, because I had talked to them about my driver's anxiety. So they already knew what was up. They already knew. They're like, Raven, you're not even gonna use that car, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, you're you're probably right. And I really didn't use it that much. I felt comfortable enough to basically go from my apartment to my college campus to the Walmart. So it was like a 5-mile radius of like a few little, like a little nail shop right here, like just very close proximity of a few places that I felt comfortable driving. And I was like, well, you know what? At least this works for now. I don't know when I'm gonna feel comfortable getting on the highway. I don't know when I'm gonna feel comfortable like actually being a normal driver, but at least I have my license, at least I have my car, at least I'm able to get to the main places that I need to get by myself. And it worked for a while, but it didn't last long because shortly after, probably it was maybe like a month or something, I totaled my car. And the way that this happened was I was supposed to be participating in a fashion show that was going to be in downtown Dallas. Where I was living was in Denton. That's about a 45-minute drive, and it's definitely, you know, going on the highway, going downtown. Like that's the advanced driving. If there's any type of hard driving to downtown Dallas and driving within downtown Dallas, you need to know what you're doing. And so anytime prior to this that I would need to go to Dallas, I would definitely not be driving myself. I would definitely always just get a ride or, you know, make it work that way. But in this particular situation, there was kind of a misunderstanding between me and my friend who I thought was going to give me a ride. And it was my fault. I didn't communicate properly. I didn't set things up or plan things properly. And so what ended up happening was at the last minute, I'm supposed to be at this fashion show. Like I'm supposed to be getting my hair and makeup done. Like, you know, they're counting on me to be in this show. And so at the last minute, I'm like calling my friend, like, hey, are you picking me up? And they're like, no, I'm already here. And I'm like, wait, what? Blah, blah, blah. And then I just panicked. And I was like, I went to the audition for this, like the practice, blah, blah, blah. Like, I really don't want to miss this show. I really don't want to let the designers down. Like, I don't know. I just didn't want to have to be like, oh, I don't have a ride, so I'm not going. So I said, you know what, Raven, you have your own car. You have a license. Your car is sitting outside your apartment right now. How dumb is this that you can't go to this obligation just because you're scared? And I really started like beating myself up about it, and I cried. In that split-second decision, I cried, and I was like, this is so dumb. This is so embarrassing. I can't even go where I need to go. And I remember feeling so stupid about it. And I just said, F it, I'm going. I'm driving myself. I could do this. I'm not about to miss this, blah, blah, blah. And I just grabbed my bag. I was already running late, so I just grabbed my bag, grabbed my phone, jumped in my car, and was like, I'm going. Didn't tell nobody nothing. I'm going. I had to stop and get gas. I remember I was just nervous. I was so freaking nervous. I had to stop and get gas, and then I had to go get on the highway. And of course I'm using my GPS because I don't even know where this place is. All I know is it's somewhere downtown Dallas. And never drove a route like this before, period, let alone by myself. So wasn't a good idea. You can already see this was not a good idea. But then I just turned on some music. I had my GPS going, telling me where to go. I had gotten on the highway just fine. Everything was going just fine. So I started getting a little bit of confidence, and I started calming down. I started just listening to my music and feeling like, okay, I can do this. Like everything's gonna be all good. Until what ended up happening is I got to a point in the highway where it was something, I wasn't familiar with any of these roads or exits or anything at all. I'm trying to listen to the GPS. And I got to a point where it was splitting off into 2 lanes on the highway going this way too. It was like a fork in the road, and I didn't know which one I was supposed to take. And so I'm trying to listen to my GPS. I had to turn off my music, like I'm concentrating, blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't know where I was going. And I'm on the highway going whatever, 60, until next thing I know, I rear-ended the person in front of me, and it was a big old truck. And it just all happened so fast. I just remember looking up and seeing like the signs, trying to see where I'm supposed to go. I remember seeing that it was like splitting off. I'm like, I gotta make a decision. And I remember I was going pretty fast, and I remember I was trying to see what my GPS was telling me to do, and it just was so quick. I just looked up and it was too late. Like I slammed on the brakes so freaking hard. Actually, what ended up happening was someone honked at me, because I guess they saw it before I could even register it, and they were trying to honk at me to tell me to stop. I remember looking, hearing the honk, hitting my brakes. It wasn't enough. I was too late. Smashed into the person in front of me. It was a big old truck with a full family in it, and I mean, it was a big old truck, so all the damage happened to my car, and I just remember the whole car just crunched on me. Like, nobody was injured at all in the whole thing. I wasn't injured, and it just was that the whole front of my car crunched up, and the hood popped up, and it was beeping, and like the alarm was going off, and it was just chaos. Like, nothing happened to their truck, and everybody was completely fine. Thank goodness. But it was just a very shocking, scary experience, and it just definitely really shook me. And I just remember thinking, like, did that just happen? Like, it felt like a dream, and I just couldn't do anything but just like get out of the car and be like, are you guys okay, blah blah blah. And I just like immediately was like checking to see if they were okay, and they just were getting out of the car like super like annoyed, just like, oh, I can't believe somebody just hit me, but they were fine. And so then it's like the police had to come, and it was just the whole thing. Like, my car was totaled. Like I said, nobody was hurt, but my car was definitely totaled because the whole front was just caved in to the point where like it kind of hit my knees a little bit because it crushed all the way in. And I didn't know what to do, so I just like got back in the car and I just remember like, Mom, I just crashed my car. And they were like, what? And I was like, eh. And I was just like so upset and so freaking embarrassed. On top of that, the whole reason why I was doing this is because I'm trying to make it to this fashion show, and now I'm like, I'm not even gonna make it to the fashion show anyway, blah blah blah. But then what ended up happening, since nobody was hurt or anything like that, the police ended up being like, okay, well, where do you need to go? And I was like, well, I need to go, I'm almost there, I'm about 5 minutes away, I need to go to this address. And they were like, well, we can't take you to the address, but we can just drop you off just here on the side of the road at this gas station, so you can get in the police car and we can drive you to the gas station, and then, you know, the tow truck or whatever is gonna have to come get your car. And so I got in the back of the police car, which was weird because that's definitely my first and only time being in the back of a police car. I felt like I was arrested, and they drove me over to where the gas station was and just was like, okay, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, but I'm like with my fashion show stuff and just like crying and just being like, yeah, I'm okay. And they're just like, okay, bye. And they just like left me there with like no explanation, no nothing. Like, I didn't know what was happening to my car. I didn't really know what was happening with the other people, and I didn't know like what am I supposed to do from here. So I ended up calling my friend who was at the fashion show and being like, hey, can anybody who's at the fashion show come get me and bring me to the fashion show? And ended up somebody really nice did come and pick me up. What was actually really embarrassing is the designer that I was walking for in the show was heading to the show and was driving by my accident and was like, is that Raven? And like honked at me and like texted me like, was that you? Like, are you okay? And I was like, yes, it was me. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'll be at the show in a minute. And it was just super embarrassing. And, you know, but they ended up picking me up. The person from the show ended up picking me up from the gas station, taking me to the show. And I ended up being like, okay, I'm sorry I'm late, getting my hair done, getting my makeup done, and walking the runway that night anyway, and just going on with the show and just having to figure out my life afterwards. So I think that honestly kind of helped, because I think I would have had like a severe panic attack if I didn't have so many distractions of, you know, just continuing with the fashion show. Because I had to block it out for the rest of the night until after the show, when I was like, okay, can someone give me a ride home? And they were like, oh, didn't you drive? And I was like, no, actually I wrecked my car on the way here, so can someone give me a ride home? And they're like, yeah, I guess you can pile in with us. And they ended up giving me a ride home. And then like kind of like the next morning I had to like talk to my parents more and really figure things out, and everything turned out okay, because like I said, nobody was hurt, and it was really just my car that got ruined. But of course my parents were upset because it's like they got me that car and then I ruined it, and then yeah, so no more car. And now I just really was beating myself up because I was like, I just took 10 steps back, because now nobody trusts me as a driver. Now I don't have a car, and now I don't trust myself, and now I'm even more like shook up about this whole thing, and went back to the old ways of not being able to get around. And it really sucked. It really sucked. It was so inconvenient in a lot of ways. I feel like there was a million things that I missed out on simply because I had no transportation, and I was constantly trying to figure out a ride, trying to figure out a Uber, trying to figure out a taxi, trying to figure out, and it just, a lot of times with the location that I was in, there was just no transportation, and I feel like I did miss out on a lot of things just throughout my whole college experience. You guys know how college is. There's always something going on, and if you don't have a way to get there, you're gonna miss it. I even had problems with certain friendships of people being like, oh, you're always asking for a ride. And it was not a good situation whatsoever. And the only thing that happened next was after I graduated college and after I went throughout the whole summer, and then all the way until I found out I was pregnant, all the way until I moved back to Austin, and I'm preparing to have my daughter. And this whole time in between, I had this wreck in 2014, late 2014, I had my wreck. So going all throughout 2015, just didn't have a car, just went back to square one. All the way until finding out I was pregnant, late 2015, all the way until 2016 of me moving back to Austin. And it wasn't until I moved back to Austin and I'm preparing to have my daughter that I said, no, like, it's time to get another car. It's time to get back in the game. And that's when you guys may have seen in my weekly vlogs that I went car shopping and I bought the car that I have now, which is a Ford Escape. And I just basically started driving my car little by little just to like remember, and just because I hadn't driven for like a whole year in between. And I was like, this is unacceptable for an expecting mother not to be able to drive around. And so that definitely really motivated me more than anything, more than all the previous embarrassment, more than all the previous inconvenience, more than any other reason I had before to want to drive. My daughter made me want to drive, and I was like, no, I'm not playing no games this time, no excuses this time, no nothing this time. I'm doing this, and I'm doing this full out. And so I really made it a point to drive my car, get comfortable with driving myself when I was pregnant. And then it did get to the point where I was like super pregnant and it was like kind of not good for me to be driving. But then after I had her, I waited a while. I waited a few months because, you know, with a newborn baby and me being a single mom, it was nerve-wracking to drive around with the baby by myself. So I did wait, and I did give myself time before just pushing myself to drive around with my baby. And I was staying with my parents and I had my family support, and I didn't have a job to go to or anything like that. I had no reason to just be trying to drive around with Zaya when she was a newborn. So there was that waiting period of not really driving when she was first born. But eventually I did, and I just kind of had to, you know, have confidence and know that I know what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm not dumb. I am capable of this. I went through my whole driving lessons. I went through the private lessons. I got my permit. I got my license. I was driving. I did have that accident, but it was more so just, you know, not a freak accident, but not something that would happen every day. And I had to just know that I can do this. Like, there's no reason why I can't do this. And so eventually I just, little by little, I would just kind of drive just right down the street. And then eventually I worked my way up to just being where I am now, which is I feel very comfortable driving with Zaya in the car. Now, granted, there are still some limitations. I'm not going to try and make this like a fully like I'm perfect now, happy ending, blah, 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 because there are still some limitations, and I still do get nervous, and I still do struggle a little bit when it comes to the whole driving thing. My parents kind of live a little bit far out, like up a hill in the mountains, as we like to say. We always make fun of them and say, oh, you guys live in the boonies in the mountains. And so that was kind of always a struggle for me, getting from here at my apartment to my parents' house, because that was just always like a scarier drive. So I avoided that for a long time, and I would just stay in my own area, and you know, y'all see me go to Target, go to the grocery store, whatever, but never wanting to drive out. And I just recently got over that, and now I do it like it's just normal, you know, with Zaya and everything. And it's just for me, it's just a process of taking baby steps and just doing, you know, pushing yourself to do things and just being realistic about it. Because if you really sit down and think about it, it doesn't make sense to inconvenience yourself, inconvenience your family over an irrational fear. Because for me, that's definitely what it is. It's irrational. There's no rational reason why I should be scared. There's no past traumatic experience there. Like I said, I had never been in a car accident before. I did get in one car accident, but hey, people get in car accidents. People rear end people all the time, every single day. Not saying that it's a good thing, but it happens. And it doesn't mean that you're incompetent, and it doesn't mean that you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you're incapable of ever driving again. You know, my parents have been in accidents. I'm sure your parents have been in car accidents. Like, you know, it happens, and it's never going to be perfect, and you're never going to be perfect, but you have to push yourself to just do things little by little. So I push myself to get comfortable driving by myself. I push myself to get comfortable driving to nearby places with Zaya, and then I push myself to drive a little bit to a further store or whatever, and then I push myself to drive out to my parents' house. Now, where I'm at right now, I don't drive out of town. I don't drive in super busy, crazy areas or anything like that. But for the most part, if there's any reason why I need to drive somewhere or go somewhere, I can do it. And I don't feel so super nervous like I used to, and I don't feel like I'm incapable like I used to, because now I know that I am capable, and you know, it's just not as big of a deal anymore. And I feel so much better about myself knowing that I have my car in my garage, and I have my license, and I have my keys, and anytime I want to get up and go somewhere, take Zaya somewhere, I can do it, and it's not a problem. I feel so much better about myself. I feel so much just more comfortable in my life, and it makes a big difference. And it's kind of a silly thing, and I always like didn't want to make this video or like put too much emphasis on this because I felt really silly about it. I'm like, it's just driving, it's just getting your license. Like, it's an everyday thing that is just kind of like normal for everyone else, but for me it really was something that was hindering my overall confidence. It was hindering my overall freedom. It was hindering my life. Like, if you can't go anywhere, if you can't transport yourself anywhere, it really does have an effect on your whole entire life. And so for me to now be finally pushing past that, it makes a huge difference. And so, like I said, I can totally understand you guys in the comments who are telling me your story. Like I said in those comments on the other Target vlog, I totally understand where you guys are coming from. Like, it's not dumb. Like, I get it. You're not dumb. It's not dumb. I understand how much of a big deal that it can be, and I understand how hard it can be to get over it. But like I said, it's about pushing yourself. It's about having confidence in yourself, and it's about just taking those necessary baby steps. If it takes you 5 years, it takes you 5 years. If you need private lessons, you need private lessons. It's worth going through that little bit of embarrassment, going through that little bit of fear in the moment to get to the bigger goal, because this is a lifetime skill that you're gonna need for a lifetime. So it's worth it to just have that moment of embarrassment or have that moment of fear, because it's gonna pay off in the end. And I'm so glad that I am able to drive now. I mean, it just makes all the difference in the world. And now looking back on it, I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I just get the private instructor sooner? Why didn't I just push myself to try sooner? Like, I was making up all these excuses when I hadn't even ever tried it yet. I was making up all these fairy tales in my head, all these nightmares in my head of what could possibly happen when I literally hadn't even tried it yet. So it was totally irrational, and I wasted a lot of time. And like I said, I missed out on stuff. So looking back on it, I wish I would have just realized that sooner, and it would have been a lot better. But that's really the only thing I can say to you guys is, if you're in this situation right now, do what you need to do to push yourself to get over it, because you're only wasting time. And I don't mean that in a mean way. And like I said, you do have to take baby steps, and you do have to take your own time and go through your own process, but don't allow yourself to just sit there and then just waste time. Don't allow yourself to just sit there engulfed in your own fear. Don't allow yourself to be just sitting there beating yourself up about it, because that's not going to do anything. And like I said, for me, I think taking the private lessons really did help. And you know, so invest in yourself. It costs money, yeah, but it's a good investment in the long run, and it really helped me. So that's one piece of major advice that I can give you guys, is try to look into private lessons. And if you're just at the very beginning stage, that you haven't even done anything in terms of getting your permit, just sign up. Just force yourself right now. Go sign up for it. Go schedule whatever you need to schedule, and at least have it on the books. If you've chickened out and you don't go, okay, that's on you, but at least take that step to at least sign up and try to force yourself to go to the first day. Because I think if you go to the first day, if you go to the first lesson, if you go to the first whatever it is, driving instructor hour, you'll realize that it's not that bad. But you have to go to the first one first to see how it really is, because you're probably making this whole big nightmare in your head and it's probably not even that bad. So just push yourself to at least go to the first one. Like I said, they're not going to push you out on the highway on the first day. They're not going to be like, okay, get in the car and go, bye. Like, they're not going to do that to you. They understand. They know you can't drive. They don't want you to hurt them. They don't want you to do anything crazy either. So they're going to take it slow with you, and you can be vocal with them and say, hey, this makes me nervous. I'm not comfortable with this. I don't know how to do this. And that's their job, to work with you. But you have to go in the first place, and you have to schedule that first time, and you have to give yourself that chance, I guess. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I can say. That's pretty much all the advice that I can give. Hopefully this video was helpful to somebody out there. I would love to hear your experiences down below. I would love for you guys to come back to this video later on next year or whatever and tell me your success stories, because that's really what makes me feel good. Is it makes me feel good to know that I wasn't alone in my struggle, and that always helps to know that you're not alone and you're not crazy. But what feels even better is to know, hey, I got through it, you got through it, we all got through it, and we all lit together. So definitely come back to this video later and tell me your success stories. I will be checking these comments. But yeah, I think that's everything I had for this video. If you actually liked this long, chatty video, then make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.